ladies and gentlemen, Forrest Walton here, and welcome to another discussion live stream. Tonight, that I have put in the description with the video that I'll be watching alongside discussing, because I think this is probably one of the best videos that I've seen actually discuss the Switch 2. So, but before we listen to that video and I give my full thoughts as we watch that said video, I did want to give my full on thoughts on that have not made people very happy about it. So to start us off, we have the Nintendo Switch 2 price tag, which some people have called into question, primarily because the base Switch 2 by itself costs $450, and the bundled version of the Switch 2 coming bundled with Mario Kart World costs $500. So pretty much you're getting a game alongside the console for $50 more than the console itself. Now some people have already heard. Now if you read my community post talking about my thoughts on the Mario Kart World Direct, you will know exactly where I stand with this. I, for one, personally do not believe that Mario Kart World should be should cost $80 at all. I think if a person really wanted Mario Kart World, they would probably try so hard to get a Switch 2 bundled with that for $500, where they're basically paying $50 for a game plus the console itself, essentially. Now, talking about the game itself, because I did say I was going to talk about the game itself. I didn't really, watching the direct, I wasn't really excited watching the direct because as people have pointed out numerous times, they pretty much that direct pretty much told us what we already knew. They didn't show us any new tracks. They didn't show us any new courses. They didn't show us any new characters, and they seem to have added the fact that costumes, characters in certain costumes were going to be taking up character character slots, which does not sit well with me at all. Because as I mentioned before, it's like they didn't really listen to us. Like nobody wanted character slots being held up by the same character in a different costume. Like we had Tanuki Mario, we had Cat Mario, we had Metal slash Gold Mario, we've had it's just a good number of a crazy amount of Mario characters. And on another example, we have Peach, Cat Peach, and for whatever reason, this was a thing, Pink Gold Peach. Yeah. So we had all those characters. Never like some people probably played Cat Mario or like Tanuki Mario or Cat Peach or Metal slash Gold Mario, but I don't recall anybody ever really playing Pink Gold Peach. It was like once in a blue moon I would see somebody playing as that particular character. Um, but yeah, I didn't really like the Mario Kart uh, World Direct in any way, shape, or form. It was terrible in my book. One of the worst directs I've ever seen. I thought the World Direct the was really the crap on the cake with that, if I'm being honest. But yeah, but talking about the Switch 2 itself, now going back to the Switch 2, I honestly didn't have an issue with the price of the Switch 2, if I'm being honest, because when you look at the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X those consoles, when they first came out, cost $500. Nobody really had an issue with them. Why? Somebody asked why, and it's very simple. And Nathaniel Bandy, who I'll be watching this video of, but I'm not watching it right now. He makes a he pretty much says the correct answer here. And he says it was a different time period. This was like think about it. It was I think the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X S. I think they both came out in 2021, if not 2022. So we were just short. We were just off the. We were just about at the end, the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic. But yeah, people like we were going out, but people were still. They still were able to buy a console. Not everybody, because again, like I've said before, people are very content with their PlayStation 4, but with how these PlayStation 4 games are being played, they have it to where you have a free you have a free PS5 upgrade. If you were to go from a PS4 to PlayStation 5, that option is available to you. That being said, with that being said, um, you know, th- with how that was going on, it was, we were having a good time with our Switches, with our Switch consoles, our PlayStation consoles, our Xbox consoles. We were all having a lot good old fun, and then the new ones came out. We were very hyped up about it. Here, people just aren't that happy about the Nintendo Switch 2. My guess is because with the when you look at the original Switch, that thing cost about $300 from the one, at least the Switch that I bought on Amazon. Uh, Around about a few months after the original Switch came out, I bought it for about $300, and I also bought Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with it. So that cost me about $350 to $360, including taxes. So yeah, but now you got $450, including including that, and then you have $500. So it's really in my case, it would be a $150 difference. It's a $150 increase for if I were to buy. It'd basically be a $100 increase if I were to buy the Switch 2 by itself, and a $150 increase for the Switch 2. But I still wouldn't call it uh, entirely an entirely bad price, because it is essentially fixing up what we had before with the original Switch. The only issue is we're basically seeing the rehash of the Wii U. If you don't know, if you for those of you that don't know about the Wii U, one of the reasons why it didn't sell very well after the Wii, which was a very successful console, upon the lives that the Switch bested it by so much, um, this by so many units sold. As a matter of fact, I think the original Switch I think it's, to my recollection, it should be the third best selling console of all time. And where's the Wii at? In the, it's nowhere near that. I think it's probably like top 10, if not top 5. Um, but yeah, that should very much tell you something right there. Here, in this situation, we have the Switch 2 and how I could understand why so many people are comparing how they're dealing with the Switch 2 with the Wii U, being that they had a very successful Wii console, and so they decided, well, let's up the ante a little bit. Let's up the ante some with the Wii U, the only problem is they didn't really entice people enough to get one. Especially when you consider the fact that PlayStation 3s and the PlayStation 4, well, you had the PlayStation at the time when it came out, you had the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 at that point. Nintendo just has a habit of going into the latest generation a little bit early. Like, well, not a little bit early, a little bit late in the console's life cycle, in the current generation's life cycle. Because think about it like this: you had the Sega Saturn and you had the PlayStation, the Sony PlayStation, and the Sega Saturn. They came out roughly the same time. Sony came out with the Nintendo 64 the very next year. So while Sega and Sony were, well, more Sony than Sega, but they were selling their products. Nintendo had to wait a whole year because uh, of delays and all that happening, so they weren't able to do that. Then you look at the PlayStation 2, which came out in 2000. You then had the Dreamcast, which came out earlier in 2000. Then you had the Nintendo GameCube in 2001. And then when Sega finally ended, that uh, was done with the console market. They just took a number of their games. They partnered with Microsoft, which had the Xbox. There's that. Then you had the Xbox 360, which came out in 2005 with a very big issue that would put a damper on its big success, on its major success at that point. And then you had the PlayStation 3 and then the Wii in 2006. There's that. Then you had the PlayStation 4 in 2014. And then you had no wait, I said the PlayStation 3 in 2006, it was actually 2007, so Sony was kind of late on that one, but you get what I'm, but either way. Um, but then you had the PlayStation 4, which came out in 2014. I don't remember exactly the year the Xbox One came out at the top of my head. I don't remember if it was 2013 or 2014 as well, but the Wii U came out in. Well, actually, I think they all came out about the same time on that one. I think, but then you had the Switch, which came out in response to the Wii U's failure, massive failure. Um, and so they were like, well, we got to make a new console now because this one's not doing any well. So they make a new console about, I think it was like 6 years, 6 years later. They release it, and one of the best-selling consoles of all time. And now we got the Switch 2. Honestly, I've only seen one advertisement 4 times, and that was during WrestleMania when I was watching that. That was literally it. So we'll have to wait and see how this goes for them at that point. Um. So yeah, how do I think this is gonna go? I don't know. It's gonna be hard. We could always make predictions and say, oh well, it's gonna sell well. It's not gonna sell well, or it's gonna sell well, just not as well enough as the Switch did. Like how the Wii U didn't sell as well as the Wii did. You know, um, it's a big issue for Nintendo right now. So um, I really think they're kind of jumping the gun here, but at the same time, I already know a number of people are gonna buy it, like because the hype train currently is real, and so a number of people are thinking, I want to get this, I want to get this. They're thinking, I want to get this now, or I want it now, but I'm gonna get it later. But yeah, um, What do I think about the content that we're going to get? Well, we do have some launch titles, and even if you don't get any of the launch titles, Mario Kart World, if you don't get any of the, but and I think that's one of the bigger launch titles of the system right now. But even if you don't get any of the Switch 2 games, you still have the option of playing your regular Switch games on the Switch 2 because backwards compatibility is always good for the win. Because it at least makes it to where if you don't want to buy a Switch 2 game, you can still play your Switch games on the thing. Good. And you also have the added bonus that if you are a Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pass owner, you can you can buy the Nintendo GameCube. You know what I think Nintendo should do? Honestly, that pack-in game they got for $10. I would not be surprised if they later on down if they actually decide, you know what, you know what, we're gonna add this $10 pack-in game to the Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pass because I would not be surprised at all if they did that. To be honest, because then it would give them more reason for it give them something else, something quote unquote fresh and new and all that. Um, but um, yeah, that's just my take on it, on that whole shebang. The peripherals, they are fucking expensive. They are too damn expensive. It's literally to the point to where right now there's only two things I want to get involving the Switch 2 in the event I get one. The screen protector and the carrying case. That's all I really care about right now. Because everything else is just god awful expensive. Ain't no fucking way I'm spending $50 for a like what was it? Like what is it now? 50, $60 for a fucking low quality camera? Are you freaking kidding me? I am paying that much for a low quality camera. I am not doing that. Even then, as I have pointed out with the friends that I've watched the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on with, and I have posted that video when I last talked about the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. I did put that in the description of that video. I probably should have put it here for context. For context, when me, Joe, Tasha, and a number of other people that I can't really think of at the top of my head because there were a good number of people there and I wasn't really paying attention to who was in chat for for the most part. We all pretty much were talking about how this chat feature for Nintendo Switch 2 was very much a fucking was very much a Nintendo a Nintendo Switch 2 ripoff of Discord. It pretty much was a ripoff of Discord, 100%. And so we all kept saying, well, why should we do this when we could just talk on Discord? That's the whole thing. That's why we didn't really like it that much because it was basically Discord, and we could just talk on Discord for free instead of paying $50 for a freaking camera, and as well as in the future paying money for a freaking um, service that was a freaking feature on the Switch 2. Hopefully by that 1 year they're gonna. Now I know this is Nintendo, but I'm hoping a little tiny bit that they realize that they messed up doing that with that feature because it's ridiculous how they're making within 1 calendar year. Well, not within 1 calendar year, but almost 1 calendar year. It's still stupid. Still very much stupid in my book. Now, um, but yeah, I just don't like the second the idea of what we got going on here with the add on with the peripherals that were being introduced with my Nintendo Switch, the original Nintendo Switch, I want to stay with my third party Pro controller. Thank you very much. Because I freaking love this thing. Even though I really like the PlayStation style, I also do very much like the Xbox kind of style with this controller and how it feels in my hand. I really freaking love this thing. I think it's like 20-25 bucks on Amazon if you buy it. New, from what I recall. I don't know if they still sell that kind, but yeah, very much worth it in my book. It's kind of wearing out. It's kind of been wearing out a little bit, but and I bought it like three, four, like 2 to 4 years, like about 2, 3 years ago. So that tells you how durable that thing is for 25 bucks. That's really really cool. I highly recommend it. Um, but anyway, with all that said, I want to hear what Nathaniel Bandy has to say. I watched this video earlier, but I wanted to talk along. I wanted to discuss it, and I do have the video in the description. So if anybody wants to watch it along with me to talk about it, there you go. So, without further ado, I will be stopping here and there to talk about things that Nathaniel Bandy talked about in this video, but I really wanted to talk about it. So let's begin.
For 8 years, Nintendo has been on the top with their well-priced Switch, great and consistent game releases. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. For 8 years, Nintendo has been on.
Yeah, I had to go back some, and I don't like the fact that it said I had to include that tidbit at the beginning. But if it means putting the voice and the video together to make it, timed perfectly, so be it.
The top with their well-priced Switch, great and consistent game releases, and a reputation that most game companies dream of. But ever since the Switch 2 Direct happened, things have taken a turn for the worse. A $450 Switch 2, Mario Kart World priced at 80 bucks, horrible communication across the board.
Oh yeah, yeah. The fact that Nintendo was very adamant on how their prices make sense. Yeah, they're very adamant about it. They've been adamant about that for the last number of years when you think about it. I mean, most of the time when they put the games on sale, you hardly if ever see their games being put on sale. Like I can't because it's been a while since he even last went to the deals. I don't even think. Hey Daniel Barry, how you doing tonight? But yeah, with how they, I don't think I've ever seen Nintendo games on sale that much compared to third party and/or indie developer games that are on sale every so often.
Using Switch 2 Edition deals.
Yes, yes, mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, I did. I remember Jamboree TV. I remember that reveal for Jamboree TV when they were saying, "Oh, we got DLC content for for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Mario Party Jamboree." Everybody in that same Switch 2 Direct were like, as I said before, after the Direct ended, we went from Moist Critical, woo, yeah, baby, to Joe Pesci in that one movie that I don't even know the name of, but I know this scene very well. It's that scene where he takes his sunglasses and he's got this this look of like, and then he's like, "What the fuck is this piece of shit?" That's literally what we were like with that Jamboree TV DLC. That's what it was really DLC ever, but it's pretty up there with that.
Overpriced accessories.
And we've already talked about. I mean, look at this right here. Let's take a look at these prices right here. Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, $79.99 to $84.99. Joy-Con 2 pair, $89.99 to $94.99. Joy-Con 2 charging grip. I don't know if I'll get that. Maybe, maybe not. $34.99 to $39.99. Joy-Con 2 strap, which is one of the which is one of those that are so small that you might still get it if you wanted it. $12.99 to $13.99. Joy-Con 2 wheel set 2 pieces. $19.99 to $24.99. Nintendo Switch 2 camera. $49.99 to $54.99. Again, not paying $55 for a freaking camera that low quality. Nintendo Switch 2 dock set. $109.99 to $119.99. Nintendo Switch 2 carrying case and screen protector, which would probably be my go-to thing right there. $34 to $39.99. Nintendo Switch 2 all-in-one carrying case, whatever the fuck that means. $79 to $84.99. And then the Nintendo Switch 2 AC adapter, $29 to $34.99. Now some of these prices aren't too terribly bad, but the ones that I could see being problematic are the Pro from top to bottom, Pro controller, the Joy-Con 2 pair, the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, if someone were to get that, Nintendo Switch 2 dock set, the Nintendo Switch 2 all-in-one carrying case. That's about it. Everything else don't seem too terribly bad, but everything else, but yeah, those ones in particular, I could see why some people would be very, like, they would try to treat their hardware that they're paying for very delicately. Like, I don't want to hurt my precious baby. Just taking their Switch 2 and their Joy-Cons and basically being like, I don't want to hurt my precious babies. These are too precious to mess up because I don't want to pay nearly $200 for this shit. I don't want to pay nearly $225 to replace this shit. I'm laughing, but it's still a true thing though.
$10 for a game that should be a pack-in.
Yep, agreed on that one for sure. I should have talked about that, but we'll get to that when we get to that with this video.
Did a new Nintendo take over? No. This is the usual.
Basically, same old shit, different day, different month, different year.
Nintendo's just recently sold us a $100 alarm clock.
I didn't even know they were that expensive, those clocks.
$70 for cardboard, and have dropped game vouchers and gold coins for seemingly no reason.
Yeah, they had a reason. It's because they want some of the money. I love that meme, that meme where the guy is like, we've got to have money.
This has been a weird time for someone like myself, and I'm not used to seeing so many people complain.
Yeah, look at this. Vivo were $12.99 when they first released in 2014, and $29 to $39.99. And the worst part to me is the hardcore Nintendo fans defending the greed. So remember, guys, it took Nintendo 5 years to finally put DKC Tropical Freeze on sale for $39.99 for about one weekend. Nintendo greed is nothing new. $40 for a Street Fighter Amiibo sounds like robbery. Let's see here. To preface this, I own a Game Boy, 3DS, and Switch. However, Nintendo is greedy and anti-consumer. But people defend them like they care about you. They don't. They went from excited for the system to not buying it due to Nintendo's greed, to now wanting it to utterly fail. I really have come to despise Nintendo. Costing $1 to manufacture these in a Chinese factory. We're not going to talk about that, man.
Complain about game price.
Because that's going to make me think of a news video that I watched talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 with the tariffs that were in place at the time, which we're not going to talk about too much here because they are technically in the early stages, and it would be unfair to act like what's going to happen in the fucking psychic. I'm not going to act like I know what the future holds because I don't. But yeah, that was at that point in time, like what could happen. People were making predictions. There's a difference between making predictions and acting like you know the freaking future, what's going to happen.
This is coming from Nintendo, and The economy is in rough
Yeah.
shape right now, and I don't see a lot of people that I know even personally that'll be getting one. But now that some time has passed, I wanted to sit down and really try to analyze if the Switch 2 is actually going to flop.
The dawn of the $80 games.
Before going into this, I just want to say that I will only be talking about US game prices. I know that the Switch 2 and its games are different in other countries, but I'm not
Yeah.
from those places, and I don't know the average income anywhere else besides here, so I won't be talking about them. The $80 price tag has been top.
God knows how many people were going on that. I remember that. I remember one time I went to one of the Nintendo Treehouse live streams, and everybody would not shut up about talking about drop the price. Like literally, that was what everybody in that chat room was saying. Drop the price, drop the price, drop the price, drop the price. I was honestly thinking, I knew they were primarily talking about the Mario Kart World game for $80 at the very least. But I was also saying, just in case they were gonna go there, that if they were talking about the $70 games, Plus, Sony and Xbox have been selling a number of games have been selling on the PlayStation and Xbox for $70, and that's just the base game alone. The base games alone here recently. So yeah, the only exceptions are games that have been out for about a year because depending on the games they do drop in price. Now here's the thing. It has been like I can easily tell you right now. I look at the price difference between the WWE 2K25 and WWE 2K24. 2K24, the base game is, from my recollection, I think it said about, I think it was like somewhere between 25 to $35. It could be about that much for for that game. Whereas, of course, with 2K25 being the newer game, it's going to cost $70. And at that same point, at the same time, you look at Nintendo games and you look at the fact that a number of the games that they sold, like even years ago, that are still selling right now, they still got them at $60. And Nathaniel Vanny's going to talk about it later, but I'm going to say it right now. It's just because they've been selling so well, why drop the price? You know? If we want them to drop the price, like these people are saying they should, saying it is not going to do anything. Actions speak louder than words. The best thing to do, wait until the price is like Black Friday. Like, wait until like Black Friday to get one. Save up some money for yourself. Wait until Black Friday and get one then. Because, get that and a game that you really, really freaking want then. Like, you you don't have to get, Mario Kart World. You could get, you know, a Switch 2 version of a game that's already on Switch, or, you know, Donkey Kong Bonanza, which is another game that which is a game I'm personally thinking about getting, for the Switch 2, because I really think that's a cool game for what it's worth. I really think it's an awesome game from what I've seen. One of the best looking games in the system, but but yeah. Moral of the story, sometimes it doesn't hurt to drop the price after years of it being on the market.
Talked about to death at this point, but it
Yep,
really makes a bold statement. Nintendo is willing to sacrifice the quantity of game sales and squeeze more money out of each person that buys the game.
yep,
You know, Nintendo was nervous and insecure about doing this because they didn't bring up the price in the direct, whereas typically they would be confident and share everything with us. But
yeah,
at the same time,
that's true actually.
hasn't Nintendo and most AAA game studios already been charging over 60 to if you're watching or listening to this video, odds are you've already paid over 80 bucks for at least a couple Switch 1 games and didn't think twice about Smash Bros. Ultimate. It costs 60 bucks, which is an
That's
then there's a
85.
second Fighter's Pass for 30 bucks.
That's
And if you get all that
115.
DLC, our new total for the game is 100 the Mii costumes. However, there's 52 bundles, and if you want dollars, so really it's $154. Or how about Mario? Except
Yep.
wait, the Booster Course Pass costs $25, so that full title is actually 85 bucks, which is very close to
Nintendo Switch. But we let him play, and he did play the game on with my niece when I bought her Switch Lite. I bought him, and Nathaniel's going to use these two games exactly alongside Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Bluey the video game. Yeah. So yeah, I know for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the Booster Course Pass.
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This one also
I am still at the very beginning of the game and I need to play it.
DLC packs, which raises the total to $80. Splatoon 2 has the Octo expansion for 20 bucks. Then Splatoon 3 offers the Inkopolis and Side Order DLC $85. And this expansion for 25 bucks. Pokemon Sword and Shield each have their own expansion pass for 30 bucks, which raises the price of both games from 60 to 90. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has the Hidden Treasure of an expansion pass for 30 bucks, making it another $90 game. And I think you get my point by now. Buying this stuff. That we are willing to dish out 80 to 90 bucks per game. And of course, there's a difference between paying extra for DLC and paying 80 for just the base game, but that's not really the point. The matter of the fact is, we've shown Nintendo that we're willing to one game, and Nintendo is simply
Um, and that's actually a very good point. I mean, well, yes, we're not buying these things like flat out. We're not like, I mean, like in some cases we are, depending on who you are and what games you're getting. Yeah, some people will probably be willing to buy there are going to be a number of people that are going to, like myself on the PlayStation 5. I am guilty of this on the PlayStation 5 side of things. But flat out just to buy a base game and the DLC pack. In my case, alone, I was willing to dish out $150 for the 25, and I say 100. It's 130. It was almost 150. That I basically put in $150 on there, and I saved up, and I saved some money before something happened, but we're not going to get into that because it's irrelevant to the story. But yeah, I was willing to do that. So what Nathaniel Band is saying here is very much a valid point in itself.
just hasn't been as in our face until now.
Yep.
And look, I'm not justifying the $80 price tag. I'm just saying that a lot of us are already paying these high prices, but just in the form of multiple payments. Now, of course.
Yeah, that's actually very true. Yep, can't argue there. Cannot. There? What the hell is there? What? What? What was I trying to sound like there? I have no idea.
Some of these DLC packs are already included for free in Nintendo Switch Online's expansion.
There's a big but on that statement. You know it's coming.
But it's not free. You are actively paying a subscription for DLC that you won't own if you stop paying the subscription. So is it really a deal at the end of the day? Yep.
So here's how it is with the Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pass. I don't think there's a monthly payment for that. I know there's a yearly pay for it. So you're not technically paying it every month. You're paying it per year. So like within one calendar year, after you've paid for it, you're gonna be paying it every year instead of every single month. Um, yeah. So so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking like, well, so I'm thinking about it like this, and so it's like it's not really yours. It's literally just like, think of it like a rent to own kind of thing. You're paying a subscription service to be able to play these things. Like how you're renting, like how you go to some place, you rent this thing for X amount of money per month, if not per year. And so, and once that year is up, and you don't, once you're that month, that monthly pay or that per month or that per year payment you gotta do comes up, and you don't do so, um, it's not technically yours anymore unless you pay for it again. Which, yeah, like I said, basically, Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pass is pretty much like a rent to own. Like you're paying money to play these DLC packs, to play certain add-ons that come with it. Like like with the base Nintendo Switch Online, you get Game Boy and Nintendo Entertainment System. I don't know about the Super Nintendo. If that's part of I think that's part of the base NSO as well. I could be wrong there. But when it comes to the expansion pass side of NSO, you're getting, alongside with what I said with the consoles, you're getting Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64, Nintendo 64 Mature, Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo, and the soon to be coming out Nintendo GameCube, which will be coming out on launch day with 4 games for that. So if you don't want to buy a Nintendo Switch 2 game. You still have your base Nintendo Switch games plus your Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pass stuff that you got alongside that. So yeah.
Now, it's kind of funny because I remember when Nintendo first introduced DLC to their games in the 2010s, and people were outraged, just like they are with $80 games.
And look what happened. Yep, look at what happened. At the same time, it's like I feel like the people that were complaining about DLCs, were kind of complaining about that, considering how, again, DLCs, depending on the DLC, some DLCs cost money, others don't. Things like that happen. And it's kind of weird because nowadays DLC is infused with games. It's literally back in those times where you were basically paying for the DLC tag on the PlayStation 5 games, but now it's the norm. And here we are again with Nintendo doing the $80 games. It's probably going to be a norm, and we're going to get used to it. And it's just going to be another new normal. So basically, it's going to be to where games are going to cost somewhere in like $20 to $30, $70. Wondering with how these prices are for Nintendo, what's going to be happening. We don't know how much it's going to cost because we don't really know much about it. To my knowledge, as far as my knowledge goes, we haven't heard much about it ever since the teaser trailer for it came out in. It's a concern to have. Wrong for having that concern. See it, yeah.
But now, people, I can release DLC packs for games like Super Mario Bros. Wonder,
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom, and Mario Odyssey. Like I said, we could not possibly be incentivizing them more to raise the prices. We've been trained to want DLC, and we might soon be trained to buy $80 games.
Yep. That's a very and good point.
And now that we've seen the Mario Kart World Direct, we have a pretty good idea of all the content that's included in the game. I'm personally super excited.
The only problem is they kind of didn't really show much on that direct. They literally just showed us everything that we knew beforehand on the Nintendo Switch 2 direct. It was like the problem World Direct, like I said before, they didn't reveal any new courses, they didn't reveal any new characters, they didn't show anything. And the crazy part is, I actually went to my are in the process of replacing it with the Switch 2, so that way we can, try it out. And once I actually try it out for myself, I'll give you guys my thoughts on it. But that's if I when I can find the time to try it out. Right now, because of my work schedule being all over the place, I can't do that. That's just me anyway. But yeah.
To play it, but there. So
And that's when you kind of think about it, like what do they bring to the table? These rails. Whoop de doo. Skateboard games have been doing that for years. What else can we do? We can fly on airplanes and we have a many years before. The only difference is, at least here, we transform into basically we go from a an air glider to a plane, which I think is really cool looking. And alongside going from being able to drive underwater to driving on the water. But that again is still very much Diddy Kong Racing. What else can we do? Oh, we can wall ride on definitely the anti-gravity stuff. I do remember Crash Nitro Kart had that many years before this game, and I even made that comparison. So every time people were saying, "Oh, that's new to the table," I thought, "Have you not played Crash Nitro Kart?" So yeah, every time I remember making that comparison when Mario Kart 8 first came out, they were doing that. That was the very fact something from that I haven't seen since Crash Nitro Kart. Also, now that I think about it, I think Cars Racerama did it too, with one of their power-ups being where you could drive on metallic surfaces or whatever. Yeah, but I don't think people would know more about that game compared to Crash Nitro Kart or Mario Kart for that matter.
I can see a lot of people waiting to buy this one or just not getting it at all.
Yeah. Now that brings up to something I was actually thinking about earlier, and I said this before. I because of how the game looks and how it doesn't seem that different compared to how different Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was in terms of gameplay, I don't really see Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart World selling that well. Like, yeah, it's going to sell well. I know it. We all know it's going to sell decently well at worst because it's Mario Kart. It's Mario Kart. What do you expect? It's going to sell well, of course. I just don't think it's going to sell as well as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did. And we've seen how much that game is, how many units that game has sold. I don't see Mario Kart World right at this moment selling that many units, even within in its first year alone. At all. I don't see it. But now, next section. Dawn of the $10 package.
This decision is just pure greed on Nintendo's part.
Yep.
The Switch 2 Welcome Tour game is not worth $10. It's not even worth 5. There's no reason they couldn't have packaged this in with the Switch. I got to play a little bit of this game at the Switch 2 event that I went to earlier this month, and yep, it's a tutorial, all right.
You know the thing is, um, when when you think about it, the first thing that pops in my head with this is that one Astrobot game that came out on PlayStation 5. I forget the name of it, but it was I know what it is. I know what I'm talking about here. But how it worked was where it was a packaged game that basically taught you all the features of the PlayStation 5 controller. So you would know about how the analog stick works, the fact that there's going to be like the how you got how you got the fields right here, where you put it on this side and they're all gonna fall down to this side. You flip it on the other side, they all fall down on this side, and how the things right here will have some pushback because of the uh, synaptic features on the shoulder buttons on the trigger buttons back here. Yeah, it was such a great game. It's one of my all-time favorite, even though it was meant to be as a means to showcase the hardware on the PlayStation 5, I got to admit it's a really good game for what it does. Easily. I think it's one of my favorite, not really meant to be taken serious games, but still a great game regardless type of games. Yeah.
The Switch 2 comes out, I'm going to check out the entire thing and see what it all has to offer, but it really should have just been free from the get-go. The
Yeah.
funniest part about this game is that Reggie has tweeted out a snippet about hacking in Wii Sports, essentially roasting.
They did Wii Sports. Yep. I mean, I think I remember when I bought. Let me think about this here for a second. Um, I remember there used to be like those bundles for the for old Nintendo consoles, so that way you bought the game, and you have a game and the console to go along with it. And here you had and sometimes they did include a game alongside the console on launch. I think like they did with the Wii right here. And with the Wii U, I don't think they had anything for the Wii U. Like they packed with the Wii U. I don't think they did. The only thing that's popping in my head is Nintendo Land, but I don't think that came with the Wii U. I don't think. I know for sure the Switch didn't, and I don't see it happening with the Switch 2 at all. So, I mean, unless again you buy the bundle with Mario Kart World console itself, then it counts. But otherwise, no.
Nintendo for not including Welcome Tour as a pack-in game. If you have the Reginator on your bad side, you f***ed up. Even
The Reginator, that's funny. Good nickname though, but that's funny.
the PS5 at its exuberant cost includes Astro's Playroom,
That's what I was. Yeah, Astro's Playroom. Okay,
an actual proper game that takes a few hours to beat.
it's such a great game too. Now for the big one that I'm not happy about, really, out of everything involving the Switch 2. The Switch 2 accessories!
Out of everything that we've talked about price-wise, the accessories are an extra painful cost that I'm not seeing a lot of people go over. And they got even more expensive recently because
Yep.
of the unpredictable market that's currently happening.
Mhm.
Or Nintendo's just taking advantage. It doesn't actually matter to them.
I could see it being the case of both situations. I could also see it be in a way, I could also see it being like a mixed bag of both, where they're being greedy, but also at the same time, you know, the landscape is sort of changing in some way at right now, currently, but not too much to probably, in the minds of a number of people, to warrant a price increase. But yeah, I could see it where some people could say Nintendo's being cautious, or people saying Nintendo's being greedy. Why not just say they're being cautiously greedy? Why not just say they're being cautiously greedy? I know that's not funny, but I just gotta say, it could be like where they're being cautious yet greedy at the same time.
I imagine a lot of these extra things aren't going to be purchased because of the upfront costs that already exist for the Switch in just a couple of games.
And I've already mentioned which ones I'd be going after. I'd primarily be going after the screen protector and the carrying case. That's pretty much my go-to things there. I don't really see any point of getting anything else outside of them at this point in time. Maybe the charging grip. Maybe I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah.
For one, we've got the Switch 2 Pro controller at 85 bucks. It's only $15 more than the Switch 1 controller, so it's not the most egregious price increase. But then we've got the Joy-Con 2 controllers at 95 bucks. We're gonna have to hope the Joy-Con drift doesn't exist because replacing
It's probably going to exist though, but we'll have to wait and see.
these for 95 bucks is insane for just a controller. The craziest cost, however, is the Switch 2 dock at $120. Switch 1 docks were already ridiculous at 90 bucks, but now it's over 100. Why would anyone get a second or third one? It's just for the sake of convenience. I can't imagine these standalone docks are going to sell that well. I have a few Switch 1 docks in random places around my house, and I bought these things slowly because of how spendy they are. I don't see myself getting more than maybe one extra dock. The cost is just absurd. Again, the point of the Switch 2 is to be more premium, and it definitely is, but these prices are probably not going to end up selling a lot of units.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, I don't think so either. Primarily when, again, right now, in my book, the worst item to get in this, out of all of them, is gonna be the freaking camera. Because again, the camera is about as low quality as you can get. So, like, with modern day cameras. And so I don't think it's worth that price at all. It wasn't even worth the 50 bucks to begin with. Maybe if they lowered, maybe if it was like, $20, $30, I could probably understand that price. But 50, 55, not even close. Not even close to reasonable. Dawn is a $450 Switch 2.
Honestly, I don't think this price is that unreasonable, especially considering how powerful the Switch 2 truly is.
I'm thinking the same thing. I don't think it's that bad of a price. I was thinking the same thing. Because again, you're buying a Nintendo console at $450 when you could buy, now of course the $500 price point some people may be complaining about, because again, you could buy a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X for $500, and I'm talking about the original, like maybe the Slim PS5s, yeah, like not including the digital versions of both consoles, disc-based peripheral, the disc-based consoles, because they're both about $500 last I checked, and so this is like 450. This isn't that bad of a price in my eyes. I can understand why people are still calling it pricey, and that is their viewpoint. At the same time, not much of an issue, but much that's understandable. I'm not throwing any shade I'm not calling. That would make no sense.
What's really surprising about all this is that Nintendo is known as the value brand of Switch 2. What I find so interesting about this approach is the 8 for the
And they did.
they actually listened and did it.
Surprising, isn't it? And I remember reading the after with the people that even pointed out another gimmicky console. They wanted to make a powerful Switch 2. And at one point, they were even talking about this feature of the into the Switch 2, and so they go the development of the Switch 2, and they were thinking the same thing, so they just put it all together. So
That its fans weren't ready for. But real quick, let's talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace.
we're not talking. From the sponsor, I'm not doing any of that. But yeah, I would honestly agree with Nathaniel Vandy on that one for sure. Dawn of the Switch 2 edition game.
It's kind of amazing how much Nintendo has tripped over their messaging just trying to talk about Switch 2 edition games. You would
Yeah,
think it'd be simple, but Nintendo made it
I still think Jamboree TV is one of the worst DLCs I've ever heard of in my entire life of playing DLCs, let alone hearing about what they contain.
really confusing and shared tiny pieces of information as the following weeks have gone by. The best way to boil it down is the cost for each upgrade is split into three tiers. A Switch 2 edition game is either free, $10 or $20. The free games will get upgrades on performance and might add extra features like Game Share. These include ARMS, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario 3D World, Clubhouse Games, Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, Game Builder Garage, New Suit U Deluxe, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and Big Brain Academy. I'm glad that a nice chunk of first-party games are
Yeah.
getting these updates to begin with, especially Scarlet and Violet since that one runs so badly.
Should I? You know what? I'm gonna ask the quick question. Should I? I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna redo Pokemon Violet, but should I do Pokemon Scarlet just for the sake of because of some of the story in that game is a bit different compared to Violet because Violet looks toward the future and Scarlet looks in the past, which I think is really cool on both fronts. So that's my thought process on it.
And I imagine more are on the way too, as I'd like to see Age of Calamity and the Xenoblade titles get the
It would make sense for the Hyrule Warriors games to be given that up the you know a Switch 2 update because you have the new Hyrule Warriors game coming out, the one that they revealed in their Switch 2 Direct. In their Switch 2 Direct, I remember that, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do that for the Hyrule Warriors games, both of them.
performance updates as a couple examples. But then we get to the $10 upgrades, or the ones that come included with the Switch Online expansion pack. What's been confirmed is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. The graphics are improved, and you also get to use this new Zelda Notes app, which has a large variety of features. While this is neat and is also free of charge, I don't really know if this warrants the extra $10. As for the app, do people really want to go back and forth between using their phone as a GPS and playing the game?
I mean, some people use the GPS on their phone to to go from point A to point B, and they have to kind of, look at both of them to make sure they know where they're going. Like looking at the GPS and then looking where they're going, so that way they don't hit any vehicles while you know trying to make sure they know where they're at.
That just doesn't sound that
Yeah.
fun if you ask me. They also added the option to share items and auto build, which is cool, but why wasn't this just built into the game itself? What's insane though is that the Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild doesn't come with the DLC, which means that if you don't own the game and want the DLC, you would be paying $90 for the entire game. Now,
Yeah, that's kind of pushing it.
I'm sure
Kind of. That is really much pushing it.
most people outraged by this already have the DLC, but even still, this is just mean. We all know deep down that Nintendo is just a corporation like the others, and they don't actually care about us. But can you not throw us at least this bone? Like, really? Pretty much every video game that's ever had DLC that gets a re-release includes the DLC. It's crazy they
Yeah.
aren't doing that with a game.
Yeah. I mean, you could go onto the PlayStation 5 alone, search up remastered games, and just about most, if not all of them, say comes with all previously released DLC packs.
Game that's this old. This is setting a really bad example for everyone else, by the way. Oh, I can't wait for other AAA studios to start doing this to rip off their customers more. Just wait until the Smash Bros. Ultimate Switch 2 edition comes out, and that doesn't have the DLC. That's gonna be one heck of a show.
Yeah. Because again, as he points out, we're looking at trying to get a game, and all that like that game alone. He uses that at the very first. He used that as the first example to prove an earlier point. That all would amount to about $150 fucking dollars. We don't have that kind of money.
And we don't even know how much Pokemon Legends EA and Metroid Prime 4 will cost, but they'll likely be $10 as well. Metroid Prime 4 adds
Hmm.
mouse support and different display options, which I guess I can understand the reasoning to pay extra for that. Pokemon, on the other hand, doesn't make much sense to me. On their site, it says
Hmm.
we get improved performance with higher frame rate and resolution. Okay, why isn't this a free upgrade with the other games? Oh, wait, because it's Pokemon and it will sell well no matter what. Got it,
Yep.
that's just wonderful.
Yep. Pretty much because just like I said with Mario Kart, Pokemon is always gonna sell well no matter what it is. The question is how well is it gonna sell? But it's still gonna sell well regardless.
But then we have the $20 upgrades. And honestly, I think these are priced fine. We've got Super Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby in the Forgotten Land with brand new content on top of improved visuals. Jamboree adds in a bunch of new mini games and uses the Switch 2 camera. It also adds a couple extra modes with the mouse controls and microphone. It's
Okay, I could honestly see where this is going. You know, because you're gonna have the base game, but you're basically paying to get the some bonus features that are not in the original Switch version. Okay, I can see it,
nothing too crazy, but it's a lot of
but Jamboree TV is still not really the kind of DLC I'm gonna get.
extra effort for what it's worth. Then Kirby in the Forgotten Land has a new story mode. So out of all these games, I think these two games warrant the extra price tag out of them all.
The Dawn of the Sea button. This is gonna be the big one here. Yeah.
I won't have much to say about this, but the C button is one of the most underwhelming features that the Switch 2 has. It is literally just voice chat with super laggy game share and face cam capability. Looks exactly like Discord when you're screen sharing with someone else. I mean, they even copied the green border when someone is talking. This would be a fine enough addition to the console, but the C button is a paid button. This is stupid as Forcing people to pay for voice chat has completely killed your opportunity for people using it for most of the Switch 2's life. People will just continue to use Discord to communicate because it's free. This is such a huge misstep that it's just baffling.
You know what? About me and the Ned. That is exactly what we said. We all were talking about the fact, saying, what would be the point of using that by itself? I mean, like, I have multiple means of going on Discord. I got my phone, I got my PlayStation, which is how I'm watching this video, because my Discord account is tied to my PlayStation account. I have two ways alone to talk to my friends in the event that I am able to talk to them in the voice chat. Yeah, I have multiple different ways, and they don't cost a freaking penny. All I need to do is just have it downloaded on my phone, have my PlayStation account linked to my Discord account, and I'm in business. It don't cost it don't cost a penny. Not even a penny it doesn't cost. And so what would be the point of trying to get people to pay to use a feature on your console? You might as well have just made it to where the C button wasn't on the console itself. You might as well have just made it to where it was in the system. Even though, again, people are likely going to use Discord, the actual Discord, instead of the Discord ripoff. This is going to be Nintendo's biggest blunder out of everything right here, if I'm being honest. And now the one thing that I personally don't give a damn about because I don't do this, but we're gonna talk about it I'm gonna play this part anyway for those of you that are involved in this. The Amiibo price increase.
Amiibo originally released at $12.99, which was a sweet price for how small these figures were. A few years later, they got a price increase to $15.99 outside of a few exceptions, and it stayed that way for a while.
Yeah, so think about this. $12.99 to $15.99. For those of you that know how much it actually is, don't say anything. Because Nathaniel Bain is going to talk about it as well. Also, I love how he is using the GameStop website for this thing here. And speaking of which, I am honestly somewhat sad on the fact that the GameStops that I went to, that I've gone to since, for a number of years, they both shut down. Like the one that's near my workplace, it shut down, and then the one that's, on the other side of town from where I live, but I occasionally will go there, that shut down too. So unless I plan on buying GameStop anything on the GameStop website, I can't go to GameStop anymore because the closest GameStop to my location is, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, 15 to 20 miles away. I'm not going to go that far for a GameStop. I'm sorry, GameStop, you are not that bad of a website to me. You guys have not given me any issues. But I'm not traveling that far just to go shopping at a GameStop. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry.
At least
I know that some people have had issues with GameStop in the past, and I'm not saying that me not having any issues says anybody is wrong. Because again, everybody is going to have different uh, experiences with the same business. That's just how it is.
until now, because Nintendo's newest lineup of amiibo are $29.99, with the Street Fighter ones being $39.99.
How ridiculous do you think that is? $29.99 to $39.99. Oh, as an increase from $15.99. You're basically double or like double plus $10. What are being making it to where they're going to be the most durable fucking amiibos ever, or they done messed up. I'm just saying.
I'm a guy that owns every single physical amiibo. I'm not buying these. I mean, my God.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't buy them either. Either? What? I wouldn't.
That aren't even that high in quality for about the same cost.
This is where political per se about the money, and that's I've already seen this video, so I already know where he is not going to talk about politics at this point at all. So anybody kind of concerned about that bit, don't worry about it. He's not going to go into the political side of things. But he's still going to talk about the economy. The American economy, to be exact. But you get what I'm saying. Well, I should say, like, how the economy was uh, um, when he was in the process of making the video.
The economy, but this will be the one and only time that I will do so.
That's either going to age very well or the other. That very last phrase he said.
Look, if you're an adult right now, you already know how hard it is to just get by these days. A
Yeah.
large majority of people that want to buy the Switch 2 won't simply because of the cost. For decades, Nintendo has been the value brand of video games. People like to buy Nintendo games because they're good deals. As far back as the Nintendo 64, Nintendo has been offering ways to purchase their games for a cheaper price. While the Super Nintendo introduced the Player's Choice moniker, the Nintendo 64 started to lower the cost of their games when labeled as such. N64 games cost around $60 at the time, but the Player's Choice version was $40. The GameCube had the same thing, with the original games being $29.99 and Player's Choice $19.99. The Game Boy Advance also
Sorry, I'm looking for something here. Give me a second. Here it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's telling the truth. I also have a Super Paper Mario here, actually, that I think has the what he's talking about there. I think it's like right down here, I think. Yeah, it's right here. I actually can't believe I got it out in the first try. And one of my games fell off. But yeah, they have the Player's Choice that was on the GameCube. And then you have the Nintendo Selects on this one for Super Paper Mario, which was $15 when I bought it at a video game store, one of those video game stores where they sell, you know, this one goes as far back as the Atari 2600. This game store that I usually go to. These, you also have and platinum hits for the Xbox system. Look how small that disc is for a game was back then. Like Mario, and that's Nintendo Select. So they don't even have a here.
Around 30 to 40 for $20.
You know, and I even remember the one was Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. Those were the only games I would see being things there. Was the only one I would see.
This was rebranded to Nintendo Selects during the Wii era, with certain Wii games going from $49.99 to $19.99. The 3DS also got the Nintendo Select treatment, with games going from $39.99 to $19. Decades, Nintendo has been doing on the Nintendo Switch yet? Nintendo Selects. And guess what? It's not happening this time. And here's why. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold 67 million copies, Animal Crossing 47 million, Smash Bros. Ultimate 35 million, Breath of the Wild 32 million, Super Mario Odyssey 29 million, Pokemon Sword and Shield 26 million. I could go on for ages. Nintendo has never been this successful with software sales. Why would they lower the price? That's just wasting money to them. If people are still buying the games in droves, might as well keep the value of the games up, right? Well, things are a bit different from the Switch 1 era to now. First,
very different for sure.
off, the concept of the Switch was and still is genius. That alone sold millions of people. But the games and consoles were also more affordable. The economy was not as unstable as it is right now. And I don't want to hear people say that the Switch 2's cost now net.
Yeah, look at this. I like how people are going about this. Switch 2's current price compared to other Nintendo consoles at launch. And the asterisks I'm going to assume are when they were adjusted for inflation. I'm going to assume. So here's how they put it. Okay, so you had the Switch 2, which comes out at which comes out. This is the base stuff here. It came out at $450. You had the original Switch, which came out at $299 with adjusted to $387 when adjusted for inflation. The Wii U was also at $299 when it was released. when it launched, and it would cost $415 adjusted for inflation. The original Wii was $294 in today's money. And GameCube was $199, $359. $400 for inflate adjusted for $199. Dude, if you notice, the price does go up from it goes down and then up. It goes down and then up in inflation adjusted right now. Inflation adjusted right now. It's not really fair. Games, NES, etc. Because different these certain is weird for us. But then $250, we were this is the Wii, so
And it's fair.
and I'm and hear and understand and at least try to understand what, until after
25 ranges a lot. 200 to this is currently around with a 6% thousand.
I'm seeing